Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel. We continue with Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer. So last week we started with chapter 46. That was 46a. We are now in 46b. This one is called The Devil's in the Details. Oh, yes, he is. Hallelu et Adonai kol goim, shabechu kol haomim, ki gavar alenu chasdo ve'emet Adonai leolam. Hallelujah. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha says, it says that Moses was 40 days in the mountain, reading Torah in the daytime and extrapolating upon it, the Mishnah, at nighttime. This is how Moses knew what time of day it was in the earthly plane, right? Remember, he entered into the mountain, but was no longer in our physical plane. So how could a physical being exist within a spiritual reality? This is very interesting. It's the same thing that actually happened to Adam and Eve and Aaron, Moses' brother. So in Genesis 3:11 it says, when God says to Adam, and he said, who told you that you are naked? Right? We remember this verse. Vayomer mi hagid lecha ki erom ata. Now I'm positive we covered this in the past, over the past years, but here it is again. The clouds of glory that covered the Mishkan, for instance, were likened to the mist of the Garden of Eden. Genesis 3:8 alludes to this. And they heard the voice of the Lord going in the garden to the direction of the sun, and the man and his wife hid from before the Lord God in the midst of the trees of the garden. Again, we need to read the Hebrew because the English just doesn't say any of this, right? Yishme'u et kol Adonai Elohim mithalech bagan leruach hayom. What is translated here as to the direction of the sun. It says leruach hayom, to the wind of the day, or rather the spirit of the day. How they got this translation, I don't know. We know that in our world, the spirit is not something that is tangible, right? But the spirit world, things can clash and they can collide because there is an order to the universe. In other words, there's tangibility, if you will, within the spirit world. But I say they can cross and they can collide, but they don't actually do so. This is why we said plenty of times where we pray, it says, Oseh shalom b'moromav. He who makes peace b'moromav, in his heavens, in his heights. May he bring peace upon us. Hu ya'aseh shalom, he will make peace, shalom aleinu, upon us. V'kol amo Yisrael v'imru amen, and all his people Israel, and we will say amen. So when it says that he, God, makes peace in his heavens, what is this referring to? This refers to Michael and Gabriel. Michael is the angel of mercy, the archangel of mercy. Gabriel is the archangel of judgment. Michael is fire. Michael is water. Gabriel is fire. Michael is on the right side, Gabriel is on the left side. Nevertheless, they still have to cross paths, and yet somehow they all stay in each other's lane, in their own lane, and they don't cause any conflict. In other words, there is perfect peace for coexistence, even in opposite elements, water and fire, right? So peace up there, peace down here, okay? So even the angels stay in their own lanes. That's why it's so important that we down here stay on our own lanes, right? There are Noahides, and then there are Jews. And from within Jews, there is the Israel, the Levites, and the Kohanim. Every person has to do their job for the general rectification, for the tikkun haklali of the world. From the wellspring, I don't count idolatrous beliefs. They're just, we know where they're going to end up. So again, if you're not adding to the world, you're obviously working against it, so it's not really relevant towards productivity. From the wellspring of wisdom, Ma'aneh Chochmah, it says that when Moses ascended to the heavens, once he entered the mountain, now this is totally beam me up Scotty stuff, okay? A cloud approached him and positioned itself in front of him. I already read last time, or 2 classes ago, from the end of that, from the gifts that Moses received from this book. Moses did not know if he needed to ride upon the cloud or to grab hold of it. Again, we're talking about a physical being entering into the spiritual world. Immediately the cloud opened its mouth, and Moses entered into it, as said in Exodus 20:18. The people remained far off, but Moses drew near to the opaque darkness where God was. Now, again, what is poorly translated as opaque darkness is actually the fog. In Hebrew, ha'arafel, a thick, dark cloud. It doesn't even have to be dark. It's just a thick cloud. Now, this can also be seen as almost tangible, yet not, right? Have you guys ever been through a cloud? Like you can kind of feel it. You could feel the moisture and the humidity. I experienced it one night walking on the streets of Jerusalem, because again, before I moved to Jerusalem, and all of a sudden my beard started going, I had like an afro beard. It was crazy. Just like, what is happening? Why is my mustache wet? And I realized that, okay, we're in a cloud because of the location, and it has an actual effect, but you can't really feel it, but you can see it. In any case, it's almost like a tangible mist. The other verse that discusses this is in Exodus 24:18, where it says, "And Moses came within the cloud. Vayavo Moshe betoch ha'anan." He went into the cloud, vaya'al el hahar, and went up to the mountain. And Moses went up upon the mountain for 40 days and for 40 nights, right? And when Moses was within this cloud, he could walk around the firmament. This is what the text says from Mayan Chochmah, from the book. He could walk around the firmament just as a man would walk about the darkness. So in other words, a physical being walking around in a spiritual reality, just like a person feeling around in the dark. So essentially, Moses was given a spiritual spacesuit. And when he was wearing this, the spiritual was overriding the physical. Where am I getting this from? Because that was the same suit that Adam and Eve had on as it filled the entire garden. But when they sinned, the holy covering could not remain on them, right? And so for the first time, they began to see their physical selves, and they were becoming lesser than the spirit. Remember, when Adam was created as a spiritual being. There was no physical essence. I mean, there was a physical essence, but he was so far removed from it, right? But that would only actually manifest later on. When Adam was created, it says after the likeness and image of Elohim, not even Yud Kei Vav Kei, but Elohim, right? So when all the angels saw this, they said, oh, surely this must be God, because no one knows what God looks like. That's why we say, Baruch Kavod Adonai Mimkomo. The angels say this. Blessed is the Lord our God from his place, meaning wherever that is, because we don't know exactly where that place is, because it's everywhere. So it's not just one place. It's wherever he chooses to be, which is everywhere at the same time. The omnipresent, also known as Hamakom, the presence, as in God is always present. Okay, so when they sinned, like I said, this holy covering, it left and they started becoming physical. Oh, and that's also the other thing. Again, I know because of the title of last video, the 666, I got a bunch of, I knew what kind of traffic I would get, some of the ridiculous comments. Anyway, if any of y'all are listening, this is the mistake that you make. You think that where it says that God created man after his likeness and his image, that because man looks like this, therefore God might look like this. This is where you err. You see, this is where you need the oral law. Or just understand that this is not exactly how things were in the beginning. There was a very big change. So God is not physical, nor does he look like man. God forbid, okay? Not at all. No image. Remember, just read Exodus before and after the giving of the 10 Commandments. Remember, you didn't see me. There was no image, no form, no nothing. Through the cloud, through the fire, through the mist, I spoke to you. Remember these things. This is why you get confused and end up worshiping a dude like he's something. Okay, so anyway, so that's what it means when it says that when God said, who told you that you are naked? In other words, now for the first time, you can actually see a physical form. That's also when they descended from the supernal Garden of Eden to the terrestrial Garden of Eden. And yes, there is a terrestrial Garden of Eden where the entrance is actually in Hebron. That's where Adam and Eve are buried. That's where the patriarchs and the matriarchs are buried, except for Rachel, who was buried on the way. And the exit is where? Is right off Mount Moriah, where the gates of heaven are. So there's a terrestrial and there is a supernal. So Adam was quite literally naked. He was a naked physical being at that time. That's where they decided to cover up, okay? Now, where does the story with Aaron coming in? As we learned that when God commanded Moses to ascend the mountain with Aaron, right, says you tell Aaron, come up. There's also, I have a book, it's the Will and Testament, or the last moments of Aaron's life. Same thing, like Moses. So it says with Aaron, when Moses ascended the mountain with Aaron, in order to lay him to rest, as Moses was removing his priestly garments, once Aaron's form was revealed, he became invisible to Moses. Not his hands, but in other words, if he starts taking his shirt off and his pants off and everything, for tzniut, for modesty purposes, just like Adam and Eve were covered by this mist, the same thing was covering Aaron. When Moses asked Aaron, after he took all his clothes off, are you still there? I can't see you. Aaron said, yes, brother, I am, and I'm covered in a glorious cloud. And that's where he was already basking in these clouds of glory personally. Invisible to the naked eye, but spiritually speaking, this is the same or similar substance that could be found in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, and with Moses when he was walking about the firmament. You understand? So it covered their physical selves. And that's how, just like if you want to go into space or if you want to go underwater, you need to put on a suit that actually causes a mechitza, a separation between you and the elements that you wish to walk about. And so Moses was 40 days in the mountain, reading Torah in the daytime and extrapolating upon it at nighttime. David brings this point up in Psalms 18:3. Day to day utters speech, and night to night tells knowledge. Yom leyom yabia omer, velayla lelayla yechave da'at. Daytime is what was said, right? Here's the Torah, here's what happened, here's what's going to happen. And at nighttime, okay, what does this mean? What does that mean? Hence the oral law. This is where we get the oral law from. It was given to Moses. Nighttime is a time to ponder and to extrapolate. As we discussed last week, the most auspicious time to learn Torah is at night, specifically after biblical midnight until dawn. Okay, the harshest hours, the hours that are filled with the most judgment, is from sundown. Actually, yeah, from between sundown and when the stars come out. So between the time of Mincha and Mariv, from that time all the way up until biblical midnight. Those are the most harsh times of judgment. But afterwards, you're already passing halfway through the night, and that's where everything starts to become brighter and brighter and brighter until the darkness before the dawn, as we know. Okay, so after 40 days, Moses took the tablets and descended to the camp. And on write this down, people, the 17th of Tammuz, he broke and he shattered the tablets and killed the sinners from Israel, and he spent 40 days in the camp. Now, this is almost a full page of commentary in the last 40 days of the camp, right? In other words, why he spent 40 days in the camp. And when I was reading this, I had the same issues as the commentators. As we know, Moses ascended the mountain for 3 sets of 40 days, coming down for a day between each, making it 120 days on the mountain itself, bringing us to the time we received the second tablets on Yom Kippur. In other words, from the 17th, from 1 week after Shavuot, because it said, and Moses remained for 6 days, and then on the 7th day he entered into the cloud. 40 days after that, he came down on the 17th of Tammuz, which is a fast day for us, because that is the day that, first of all, that was a golden calf. That was supposed to be the giving of the first tablets. Tablets are shattered. No more, the golden calf was there, had to be destroyed, obviously. 3,000 of Israel had to be killed by the tribe of Levi, as we discussed. 40 days after that, but not exactly 40 days after that, he goes up again. And then he goes up, and so he came down for a day, and he went back up the following day, and then another 40 days coming down on Yom Kippur. So the math works out. You could count it yourself if you like. But bottom line is he was 120 days on the mountain. Now, fortunately for us, we have a book called Seder Olam, the order of the world. I think they even have it in English. All right. And fortunately for you guys, you can either purchase it on Amazon or you could even look it up on Safaria. There you go. Seder Olam. So from Seder Olam, the order of the world, of exactly the timelines of everything that happened, right? Chapter 6, it says, on the seventh day after the Ten Commandments, Moses went up on the mountain, as it says in Exodus 24:16, and the glory of the Lord rested on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days, as we just said, and he called to Moses on the seventh day from within the cloud. That's when Moses entered, right? This was in order for Moshe to purify himself. And Exodus 24:18, it says, and Moses came within the cloud, and he went up to the mountain, and Moses was upon the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. Very clearly, on the 17th of Tammuz, he came down and shattered the tablets, as seen in Exodus 32:30. It came to pass on the next day that Moses said to the people, you have committed a grave sin. And now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I will obtain atonement for your sin. So Moses went back up on the 18th of Tammuz, it says, and pleaded for mercy on behalf of Israel, as it is written in Deuteronomy 9:25. So I fell down before the Lord, the 40 days and the 40 nights that I had fallen down, because the Lord had said to destroy you, right? In between the first 40 where he received the Torah and the last 40 where he received the Torah again with the second tablets, there needed to be a 40-day atonement session over there. So at that moment, the Holy One, blessed be he, once again viewed Israel with favor and said to Moses to carve new tablets. In other words, okay, Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha, and the Lord said, I have forgiven you according to your request, right? We say this on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We say this from Rosh Chodesh Elul, all for Slichot. In other words, when Moses ascended the mountain the last time, from Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippur, we received the second tablets on the Day of Atonement, on Yom Kippur. And God said, and this is a day forever and ever, because this is how we know that God loves us and forgave us, right? We got a second chance. So the Holy One, blessed be he, once again viewed Israel with favor and said to Moses to carve new tablets and come up the mountain once again, as said in Deuteronomy 10:1. At that time the Lord said to me, hew for yourself 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and come up to me unto the mountain, and make for yourself a wooden ark. And he came down on the 28th of Av, it says, and carved the second tablets, as said in Exodus 34:4. So he, Moses, hewed 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and Moses arose early in the morning and ascended Mount Sinai as the Lord had commanded him, and he took 2 stone tablets in his hand. He went back up on the 29th of Av, and the Torah was repeated to him a second time, as says in Deuteronomy 10:10. And I remained on the mountain like the first days, 40 days and 40 nights, and the Lord hearkened to me also at that time. The Lord did not wish to destroy you. So those are the last 40 days, right? And I remained on the mountain like the first days. Just as the first was a time of favor, so too the second, or the last, was the time of favor. Now we can derive from this that those in the middle, the 40 days in the middle days, were a time of great anger, right? Favor, anger, favor. He came down on the 10th of Tishrei, which is Yom Kippur, and announced to them that they had found favor before God, before Hamakom, the omnipresent, the presence, as it says in Exodus 34:9, and said, if I have now found favor in your eyes, O Lord, let the Lord go now in our midst, even if they are a stiff-necked people, and you shall forgive our iniquity and our sin, and thus secure us as your possession. Ki am kshe'orefu v'salachta la'avonenu. Slicha is forgive. La'avonenu, for our sins, u'lechatatenu v'nechaltanu, and you will take us for you once again as your possession. Therefore, it was established as a fixed day and a remembrance for the generations, as says in Leviticus 16:34. This is Yom Kippur. All this shall be as an eternal statute for you, to effect atonement upon the children of Israel, the Day of Atonement, for all their sins, once each year, and he did as the Lord had commanded Moses. Okay. So, great. So this helps us with the timeline of the 3 sets of 40, I hope. But how do we reconcile with our text in Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer that says that Moses spent the second set of 40 days in the camp, right? That's how we started. And if the second 40 days was in the camp, that's kind of not exactly what we read. Hold on. There's a whole discussion on the matter in the Radal's commentary, excuse me, as he brings so many opinions, though the one that sits best with me is that Moses ascended in the mornings and remained there during the day, and descended at sundown and remained in the tent of meeting, which was moved out of the camp during the night, right? After the sin of the golden calf, Moses removed the tent of meeting outside of the camp. So in other words, he didn't go back to the camp of Israel, but he was outside the camp, but he wasn't in the mountain, right? Another tiny point to inject into this opinion is that we know that morning, like we said, and daytime is the time of mercy, while evening and nighttime is the time of judgment. So in other words, when do we pray for forgiveness? Not when judgment is abiding in the world. So again, after 40 days, Moses took the tablets and descended to the camp on the 17th of Tammuz. He broke and he shattered the tablets. He killed the sinners from Israel via the tribe of Levi and spent 40 days in the camp until he burned the calf and ground it like the fine dust of the earth. He killed all those who kissed the calf. Now, these 3 things that he just did that I just read, all that took place in one day. That was all on the 17th of Tammuz. And this is what he spent the next 40 days doing. He cut off idolatry from within Israel and reestablished each tribe to its rightful and proper place. You see, a good leader doesn't just leave the people. Yes, Moses always prayed, but hold on, this is where they need me most. But I do have to pray on their behalf. So he spent the daytime praying on their behalf up the mountain. And at nighttime, what was he doing? He was actually working with the people. He cut off idolatry from within Israel and reestablished each tribe to its rightful and proper place. Moses cut it off from its root. But how does one do that? When Moses was in the zone, and considering he just came down to our reality after spending 40 days and nights with the Creator, he could see and, smell anything that wasn't kosher within the spirit of the people. The 3,000 who were killed by the tribe of Levi were already gone. They submitted to an idol. But the rest, all the stragglers over there who were kind of on the fence, are like, oh, yeah, maybe, but didn't kiss the golden calf. Or kissed it, but not with all their hearts. Like we discussed, it was that kiss of, you are now my new God, baby cow of gold, which I helped to create, Those who were not 100%, but still lean towards there. Those are the most important ones, right? The ones on the fence, the ones that still can be saved. So, or let's say they had questions, they had doubts. Moses did not let those go as he brought them all back and helped them do complete tshuva. This is what a true leader does, like we said, and for 2 reasons. 1, he genuinely cares and loves you. And 2, he genuinely cares and loves all of Israel, knowing full well that we need every last holy spark to return to its place, its rightful place, in order for the machine, if you will, to work. And reestablish each tribe to its rightful and proper place. The Radal says that after the calf, the killing, the plague, right? All these things. There was obvious chaos among the ranks of Israel. What just happened? How could we have allowed this to take place? We just received the 10 Commandments 40 days ago. How could this happen? Now 3,000 died. Oh no, what's going on, right? It was complete and utter chaos. It wasn't like, oh, business as usual. No, from every tribe except for Levi, people were killed. So, not only every spark was necessary, but every spark in its place was necessary. That's why every Jew should not be outside the land of Israel. They're doing damage to everybody else, themselves included. We'll talk about it. Don't you worry now. So this is the puzzles that Moses was desperately trying to assemble. And he was the only one who could see this. He saw, your spirit and where you need to be. Go, okay, you go here. Okay, not only to your tribe there, but within your family and within your house. Everybody has got a certain place to be. It's like, just again, think of a puzzle. Creation, perfection, and then sin, everything shattered. That's where you get now the puzzle pieces, and we have to put those pieces back together. So it's not just enough for all the pieces of Judah to be put in the Judah section and so on and so forth. Every single piece from every single tribe has to be within their designated tribes in their proper place, and then all the tribes have to be sectioned accordingly. We know that when Mashiach comes, every man has a plot of land here in Israel, according to their tribe and with their literal name on it. You understand how amazing that is? And that is why once we are united and at peace, every man must return to his rightful place in order to activate the rectification process in order to renew the world. So Mashiach comes, I live in Jerusalem. I hope I'd like to stay in Jerusalem because it's Jerusalem. But if Mashiach says, okay, you are not from the tribe of Judah, you are from the tribe of this, that, or the other, you have a plot of land for you waiting over there. I'm not going to be like, oh man, I'm doing this. Why? Because once we all go to where we go, just like Jacob had the dream where he placed all the rocks, it says, and he took from the rocks of the place and placed it beneath his head. And when he woke up in the morning, and there was one single rock. In other words, we have to go to where we need to go, and then everything becomes one. So it doesn't matter where you're sitting because technically it's all in the same place, all surrounding Beit HaMikdash. On Rosh Chodesh Elul, God told Moses, ascend, as said in Deuteronomy 10:1. At that time, the Lord said to me, hew for yourself 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and come up to me unto the mountain and make for yourself a wooden ark. And let Israel blow the shofar, says Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, throughout the camp. For Moses is ascending the mountain, and let them not err after idolatry. Why was it so important to announce that Moses is ascending? Do we recall what happened the first time? Maybe. There was a mistake in relaying the message. There was a small detail that was not properly conveyed to the people. And as we know, the devil is where? In those details. Quite literally, as we have learned. Meaning, if you leave a tiny little gap that is not perfectly clear, you know who will most certainly get in and corrupt the whole damn thing. Masechet Shabbat 89. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi said, what is the meaning of that which is written, and the people saw that Moses delayed, Boshesh, to come down from the mountain? Exodus 32:1. Do not read the word in the verse as Boshesh, but rather read it as Baoshesh, as in came within 6. Ba hu shesh. Shesh is 6. Like we said, he was late by 6 hours, or they thought that he was late by 6 hours, like the 6th hour of the day, like we talked about last class. When Moses ascended on high, he told Israel, in 40 days, at the beginning of 6, I will come. After 40 days, Satan came and brought confusion to the world. He said, where's your teacher Moses? They said to him, he ascended on high. He said to them, 6 have arrived, and he has not yet come. And they paid him no attention. Satan said to them, Moses died, and they paid no attention. Ultimately, he showed them an image of his deathbed, where, in the sky, look, Moses is actually dead. Project Bluebeam, anyone? If you see images in the sky, do not believe them, okay? And that is why they said to Aaron, for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we know not what has become of him. Exodus 32:1, same verse. Now, we have it written that what Moses told the elders, not all of Israel. Remember, he told the elders, but not all of Israel. We're going back to why the shofar is blown throughout the camp. Exodus 24:14. And to the elders he said, wait for us here until we return to you, and here Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a case, let him go to them. So again, this was told to the elders of Israel. Then you have a broken telephone situation over there. There was slight lack of clarity, and that's where the whole thing happened. So with who lies the mistake here? Moses or the elders who then relayed that information to their respected tribes? Tell me, if Moses showed up 10 days later, I know, regardless of what you think, if Moses shows up 10 days later, he said, I'll be back in 40 days. He came back 10 days later. Or perhaps never again. Moses went up and he never came down. Is that an excuse to build and to worship an idol, especially after just receiving the Ten Commandments? Obviously not. So it's neither here nor there. You understand the point. What do we say when it comes to Mashiach? I believe in complete faith in the coming of Mashiach. Afal pi, though he may itmamea, tarry, boshesh, whatever, he's late, tarry, whatever. I will wait for him any day that he comes. There's no excuse to build an idol, right? There's no excuse to follow an idol. But the fact of the matter is, they thought he was ascending a day before he actually did, and there lies the problem. But we learn from our mistakes, and we are also commanded to do so. And this is called regret, meaning understand what it is, understand why you erred, and tshuva, to return. And we take protective measures that these mistakes should not repeat themselves. And these are called the fences that have been placed throughout our history, beginning with God, and then the Torah, and Moses, and Adam, and we learned all about these things in previous classes. This one came in the form of a shofar blast that could be heard throughout the entire camp of Israel, that no one should have a doubt as to what is happening and when it is happening. Now, everybody knows, not just the elders. And the best part is, again, where's the first time we saw the serpent slip in over there? It was in the Garden of Eden. Did God not say? Did he say? Did he not say? He said that? Yeah, but he didn't say that. Everything is now clear. There is no doubt. You do not, lo potchim pela satan, you don't open up your mouth and give room for Satan to enter in over there. So the best part is, why the shofar blast? Because when we blow the shofar, it actually confuses Satan. He cannot focus. He cannot accuse. He cannot find a gap to cause doubt, just as he did to Israel the first time around. And the Holy One, blessed be he, exalted by the shofar blast, as said in Psalms 47:6. God shall be exalted with the trumpet blast, the Lord with the shofar, with the sound of the shofar. As you know, every shacharit prayer, every morning, from Rosh Chodesh Elul, remember, he went up the night before, right, on Kaftet on the 29th, from Rosh Chodesh Elul, the day that Moses spent his second full 40 days up the mountain. We blow the shofar for those 40 days until Yom Kippur, when Moses returned with the second tablets. Every single day we blow the shofar. From Masechet Rosh Hashanah, 16a and b, 16a at the bottom, starting with 16b. Rabbi Abahu said, when does one sound a blast with a shofar made from a ram's horn on Rosh Hashanah? The Holy One, blessed be he, said, sound a blast before me with a shofar made from a ram's horn, so that I will remember for you the binding of Isaac, son of Abraham, in whose stead a ram was sacrificed, and I will ascribe to you as if you had bound yourself before me. Rabbi Yitzchak said, why does one sound tokin, a blast, on blowing the shofar, on Rosh Hashanah? Why do we sound a blast? The Merciful One states in the verse in Psalms 81:4, sound the shofar on the new moon, on the appointed time for the day of our festivals. Tiku b'chodesh shofar b'keseh liyom chagenu, ki chok leYisrael hu mishpat lelo Yaakov. It is a appointed time for Israel. Ki chok leYisrael. It is a statute for Israel, a mishpat, an ordinance or a judgment from the God of Jacob. Rather, the question is, why does one sound a series of shofar blasts, teruah, in addition to a long continuous shofar blast, tkiyah, right? So tkiyah is the long blast, and then you have shvarim, which is dut, 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 and then you have tuah, da, 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 right? There's 3 different blasts. Anyway, the sound of tuah, the Merciful One states, in the 7th month, which is Tishrei, it's a 7th month, in the first day of the month, which is Rosh Chodesh, and also Rosh Hashanah, shall be a solemn rest unto you, a memorial proclaimed with the blast of horns. Teruah, Leviticus 23:24. Rather, why does one sound a long, continuous shofar blast, Kia, the do, and then a series of shofar blasts, Teruah, while the congregation is still sitting, and then sound it again, a Tkiah and a Teruah, while they're standing in the Amidah prayer? Because the way we blow the shofar, again, I've seen different things, whether it's the Ashkenaz tradition or the Sephardi tradition. But the bottom line is everybody, you blow 100 shofar blasts on that day. You have to. So sometimes you do it before, and then other times you do it before Shmoneh Esrei, the Amidah prayer. Other times you start the Amidah, and then you stop the Amidah in the middle, and that's when the Baal Tokea blows a shofar blast. And in other places, they wait until the end of the Amidah, and then during the Chazarat HaShatz, when the Chazan, what do you call it? The cantor, I guess, where he repeats the prayer, and then he stops in those places because he repeats the prayer of Amidah. Jews, you know what I'm talking about. All right. In any case, so rather, why does one sound a long continuous shofar blast and then a series of shofar blasts while the congregation is still sitting, and then sound it again in the Tkiah and Teruah while they're all standing in the Amidah prayer? He answers, in order to confuse the Satan. So it's not like, oh, now it's going to happen, now it's going to happen. Oh, they're sitting, now they're standing. What's happening here? So he answers, in order to confuse the Satan. And Rabbi Yitzchak said, any year during which the shofar was not sounded at its beginning will suffer evil and misfortune at its end, meaning throughout the year. What is the reason? Because Satan was not confused. This is why we have 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, because in the first day, if the first day falls on Shabbat, we can't blow the shofar on Shabbat, so we blow it on the second day. Now this, as you can see, is vital for our year. So if Rosh Hashanah falls on like the first day of Rosh Hashanah, which is actually Rosh Hashanah according to its Hebrew date, where it falls on a Shabbat, that is the real Rosh Hashanah date. So the second day is the rabbinical day. It's like, okay, well, we still need to blow a shofar. Why do you not blow a shofar on Shabbat? Here's your answer, okay? But of course, the first day is the most important, like I wrote. So why can you not blow the shofar on Shabbat? Now, are you ready for this? Plain and simple, because of Christians. Huh, you say? Here's your answer. I'm not even joking, all right? So many of our traditions have been hijacked and perverted. So in order to separate us, for as far as possible, from the bastardizing religion, pun very much intended, we had to let some things go, including but not limited to playing musical instruments on Shabbat. If you read in the Mikdash, they would sing and they play instruments even on Shabbat. But now that doesn't happen. Only in Reform and conservative temples, they don't follow the Torah anyway. So throw them in there with the Christians. It doesn't really matter. You understand? Oh, you're doing it? Keep it. Oh, you took that too? Fine, keep it, take it. But again, it's more important to distance ourselves, and you guys are going to love this if you're still listening. We are called to be a nation of Pharisees, right? What are Pharisees? From the word lifrosh, prushim, to separate from the rest of the nations. As God said, I will separate you from me, from the rest of the nations. Don't take on anything that they do. And if they take on things that you do, then stop doing them. Everything is going to be settled when Mashiach comes, but stop doing what it is that you do so people won't get confused. You're doing it, they're doing it. Unfortunately, when I came back from where I came, well, I say actually, unfortunately, I saw the truth, but fortunately also I saw the truth. That so many of our treasures really have been taken and hijacked. And when I explained this to family and friends, and they said, no, that's Christian stuff. I'm like, no, it's Jewish stuff. They took it and perverted it. So they put a label on it. If you scratch off that label, you're like, oh, look at its point of origin, and it has nothing to do with it. This is mamash how it's done. So again, why are we instructed to blow the shofar throughout the camp and today throughout our cities on Rosh Chodesh Elul, going all the way to Rosh Hashanah and then Yom Kippur, so that all Israel should know that on this day, God is receiving Moses for the second time after that we had been given a second chance. In other words, now for 40 days, no one misses a count. So when Moses comes down, everybody's going to know exactly when Moses is coming down. This is to remind us and to confuse the Satan every single day. And what happens also from Rosh Chodesh Elul until that time? It says that is when the king is in the field. Elul, Aleph Lamed Vav Lamed, Ani ledodi v'dodi li. I am for my beloved and my beloved is for me. These days are approaching. This is when the king is in the field. This is when we can have conversations with God, and no one is going to be accusing us over there. You want to answer this person? You know what they did? No, because we blow the shofar every day and it confuses the Satan. Okay, so this also reminds us while Moses is receiving the Torah for our sakes, that we need to constantly be on guard from the Satan in order to confuse and cause chaos to him as he did to us the first time around. And so our text concludes with, for this reason our sages had decreed that we blow the shofar beginning at Rosh Chodesh Elul every single year. This, of course, continues until Yom Kippur. And that is today's class. As always, guys, I really do hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great week and a Shabbat Shalom. Bye-bye.